Hi everybody, it's Nick McDonald here from Trade with Precision. Welcome to this week's Equity Markets Update. We have the TF contract on the screen here, the Russell 2000, and looking at it to start with on a monthly chart, we'll go from the top down. Looking at this here, we see that price, as expected, has come up and it's retested this upper resistance area of around about the 740 to 750 mark. Also, just looking at the price action trend, we're continuing to make higher highs on the way up. We've been making higher lows here for quite some time. What we need to see though now is for this resistance area to be broken and for price to break up through this previous high and really confirm its strength and show the continuation to a higher high. This is looking very likely, and I'll show you the reasons why. However, never of course confirmed until it actually breaks. So right now we need to see the price really push through that level, and I'm expecting that to happen this week. But we need to really look at the bigger picture and see why we expect that to happen, and then of course we need to see price do that. We can look at probabilities and say it's more likely to break than not, but also of course price has to actually break for it to really confirm its bullish uptrend and to confirm resistance now broken, which should then go on and act as support in the future. So let's come and look at a weekly chart. As expected last week we came up, so you can see firstly that resistance area more clearly here with multiple touches on that 740 to 750 region. What we did here last week, we came up, we'd pulled back into the buy zone, this zone around the 10 and 20 period moving average. We've now broken up through that high, and in fact the Russell is looking like one of the strongest of all the index markets. We'll go and look at the others soon. You'll see that some of the others had a down week. The Russell had a very strong up week along with the Nasdaq. So strong has come up and it's tested these highs perfectly, right on the nose, fallen off a little bit, and of course now we need to see it break up. So 740 is really the key for it to break, and we'd really like to see a close up above 750 as well to really confirm the strength. But the weekly uptrend remains intact. It had a healthy pullback there for a couple of weeks, is now pushing back up again, and I'm expecting it to break up through there this week. Coming right down to a lower time frame chart, and I've really got this upper level drawn in here, but if we just really look close again at this kind of 739, 740 level, that's where price needs to break through. We are moving higher here, we are making higher highs and higher lows. Now what could change my view here is that see how here price is making equal highs. Now, this is a classic setup for a potential change of trend, a potential what a textbook might call a double top. And it's very early days though. The double top would really only be confirmed if price broke back down, not only through 710 but back down to a lower low through the 700 level. So I've heard people say before that trends are subjective and even patterns are subjective, that you can only see them in hindsight. Well, I can tell you right now in real time that if price breaks 700 precisely, literally if it breaks the low of this candle back here, which was the day on the 16th of November, if price breaks the low of that day, then we will have changed trend. So that's where the trend would change to the downside, but for now it remains intact, and I'm still looking for price to push up through and break up through those highs. It's looking very strong. Come down to a 4-hour chart and it just looks even stronger. So this is price having pulled back, rallied right away from the buy zone, tested those highs, pulled back, making a higher low, indicators converging, i.e. as price makes higher highs. The RSI is somewhat flat, but the MACD is really pushing on and making new highs, and that 4-hour chart looks really strong. I'm looking for a retest of that level early in the week. Let's just quickly look at some of the cash index markets, the other major markets, the Dow, the Nasdaq, the S&P, see how they look. And what we'll see when this Dow chart loads is that the Russell has been very much stronger. So we had on the weekly chart here on the Dow, we had the price pull back into the buy zone, very similar to what we had on the Russell. However, the Dow hasn't managed to break up through its highs. So it's looking a little bit weaker. It hasn't broken down either, but it's looking slightly weaker than the Russell, and it's good. It's good to see the Russell out there leading the market. And if we just come to the daily chart here, what we will see though to the lower end here on the Dow, the lower end of this range which it's found itself in, is that 11,000 on the cash Dow market is really proving good support, and it has been now for a good couple of months, and that would be our precise point where we'd really start to be concerned about the direction for the markets if the Dow breaks down and holds below at 11,000. If it comes down towards that and tests it again, I'd expect that to keep on finding support at 11,000. A close down below 11,000 would be a concern. For now, I'm remaining to the bullish side, and I'll be looking for a break up through 11,200 for it to continue on back and make higher highs once again. Coming to the S&P, very, very similar scenario. And this is pretty much like the Dow in terms of it's come up, it's pulled into the buy zone, hasn't broken up through the high of the week before yet, but this week I've been looking for a similar thing to happen, looking for it to break out of this. If we look at a daily range, we've got a lower range down around this area here, and an upper range where it was stuck in last week, looking for it to break up through that area and push on again and make new highs. If we can do that, we will be looking very bullish, and the indication is going to be the break up through that 1200 area there on the S&P. If we've broken up through that, and then we'll be looking to make not only test this previous high at 1230, but actually to break up through it. Lastly, looking at the Nasdaq, which is probably the strongest of them all, right up there with the Russell, if not stronger than the Russell. The reason it is in fact slightly stronger than the Russell is because it's already broken up through previous resistance, whereas the Russell is testing it now. But the fact that the Nasdaq has pushed up through that is still a very good positive sign, and the Nasdaq, very much like the Russell, has broken up through last week's high and had a bullish week, whereas the Dow and S&P had down weeks. So this is looking strong, looking for a good continuation up, looking this week for a retest of 2200 and a push up through there, continuing on to new highs. So just recapping my analysis and coming back to the Russell, I am expecting a break up through, largely because the other markets are looking strong. I'm looking for the Dow and the S&P to break up through their levels. Any breakdown would be a reason for concern. I'm looking for the Nasdaq and the Russell here to be pushing up and breaking up through these levels, breaking through last week's high. So basically, if we can just break last week's high, the exact high of the move there is 738.7. So if we hit 739, I'll consider last week's high broken, and that will be a very good bullish sign that we're going to continue up this week. At the moment, I remain bullish on the Russell and will continue to do so as long as we remain above 700. And there's quite some room, so even if we did have a down week or even a sideways week, it won't change my bullish stance on the market. I would need to see a close below 700 on the Russell for me to change my stance from bullish to bearish. Otherwise, I'm looking for price to be coming back up and retesting old highs and coming up to around about this 850 level in the coming months. Might not happen this year, but I'm looking for that to happen in the coming months. The trend is strong. I expect that trend to continue until I see otherwise. Happy trading all. Have a wonderful week. Speak to you soon.